May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Before we actually get into chapter 3, which is where our lesson is from today, I need to tell you just a little bit of history that gets us there, in case some of you have forgotten the story of Ruth, or maybe not be so familiar with it. Naomi and her husband Elimelech lived in Bethlehem. They had 2 sons, and there was a famine that occurred in Bethlehem. So they moved. They relocated to a place called Moab. There the boys grew up and took wives for themselves. Each had a wife, one named Orpah, the other named Ruth. The family stayed there for several years, and during that time, the father and both sons died. Naomi had no family there. She was getting on in years herself, and she felt that she could not provide for these young women. She told them that there was no way she could remarry and have sons again and wait until they grew up to give them to her daughters-in-law. So she encouraged them to go back to their families. Go home, live with your families, and find new husbands there. Orpah agreed, and she went. Ruth, on the other hand, chose not to go. She told her mother-in-law that she was going with her. She would travel back to Bethlehem with her. Where she went, she would go. Where she lived, she would live. Where she laid her head, she would lay her head. Her God would be her God also. And so they journeyed back to Bethlehem. Now, they're back in Bethlehem, and this is where we are picking up the story. Because now Naomi feels she's back in her homeland, and she has to find a way for them to survive. Because as widows, they will not survive on their own. Now, if I said something to you like, let me tell you about my mother-in-law, what would I hear? Giggles and smirks and comments and whatnot. Well, that's pretty much the story today. Let me tell you about my mother-in-law. And I have to post a disclaimer as we begin. How many in here are in Disciple 1 class? All right, those of you who had your hands up, I was told that you had a little discussion Monday night about feet. The disclaimer is we are talking about feet today. They know what I'm referring to. There are many places where we can spend the seconds, the minutes, the days, the hours of our lives. We can spend them in the world pursuing pleasure and sin. We can spend them chasing prosperity. We can spend our time enjoying recreation. It can be spent working with family, with others, with helping others. And some of these are good and valued things. However, the best way to spend every second of our life is to spend it at the feet of Jesus. When we are there, He gives meaning to all other things that we do in life. In fact, being at His feet enables every other area of our life to have more meaning. This particular passage finds Ruth getting to the feet of Boaz. When she got there, everything in her life changed forever. Her experience in getting to His feet teaches us lessons about getting to the feet of Jesus that we need to learn. Let me share the truths of this passage with you today. I want to help you find your place at His feet. Thinking about the beginning of the reading, the first 4 verses, it talks about possibilities that can happen if she gets to the feet of Boaz. The first possibility that could occur is that as a widow, Ruth could find a new home. She has the opportunity to experience the joy of a new relationship through marriage with someone who can love her, not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. I go there to prepare a place for you. Would I not have told you that I go to prepare a place for you if it were not so? And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. So we have the possibility of a new home. Next is the possibility of a new hope. As a widow, her life will be nothing more than endless days of suffering, poverty, loneliness, and defeat. If she can enter into this relationship with Boaz, her entire future will be altered forever. In Jesus, the saints find a new future. Life has meaning, and there is hope for tomorrow. For we have many things in Him. We have spiritual blessings. We have eternal salvation. We have absolute security. We have a relationship that is a friend that's closer than our own brother or sister would be. We have an ever-present Lord, and we have an advocate in heaven. Along with a home and a hope, there's a chance, a possibility for new happiness. Ruth will never be fulfilled and happy in her current condition. She needs the love and the security that can only be offered by someone like Boaz. In Jesus, the saints find true joy. Although you have not seen Him, you love Him. And even though you do not see Him now, you believe in Him and rejoice with an indescribable and glorious joy. This is something that sin, with all its pleasures, cannot offer us. There is true joy in knowing Jesus. Let's move from the possibilities to the actual presentation that is made at His feet. This presentation has involved some research on Naomi's part. Ruth was commanded to watch the place where Boaz laid himself down. Of all the men there, she was to isolate him and see where he was resting. If she was going to get at his feet, she had to find him. And so it is with God's children. If we will obtain the blessings found at His feet, we must first find those feet. In the matter of salvation, there is no finding Him. He does all the finding of the lost sinner. John 6 tells us, "No one can come to me unless drawn by the Father who sent me." And I will raise that person up on the last day. But for the redeemed, there is a sense in which we must find Him. Now, we need to stop for a minute and think about this place, this actual place where Ruth is going to find Boaz. For Boaz is in the threshing floor taking care of business. And I don't know about you, but I don't know much about threshing floor. Maybe some of you do, maybe some of you have been to a threshing floor, but I never have, other than through pictures. So he was in the threshing floor taking care of business. This place, the threshing floor, was usually located up on a hill. And this is where the grain is gathered and processed. Ordinarily, the threshing floor is circular in motion. It is either a hard surface of clay or made of bedrock. The grain is gathered, it's collected into sheaves, and then it's transported to the threshing floor. Once it's there, the sheaves will be placed on the floor and trampled under the feet of oxen that are pulling a sled. This cracks open the head of the grain and helps separate the kernel from the husk. The workers would then take a flail or a type of a fan, and they would gently toss the grain up into the air. This work would be started in the late afternoon. And the reason for that was because there would usually be a gentle breeze blowing across the wheel tops at that point in time. And as they lifted that grain up, the grain would be separated from the chaff and the husks. And the grain would fall back to the ground, and the chaff and husks would be blown away. This process would go on until all of the grain was back on the ground, and all the husks and chaff was thrown away. And the families would participate in this activity. Once this was completed, there would be a time of celebration and festivity. And at the end of the festivities, the women and the children would go off and feed the tents. The men, however, would stay in the threshing floor, and they would sleep with their heads positioned up towards the grain in order to protect it from theft in the night. So this is the place to which Ruth has been commanded by her mother-in-law to go, this threshing floor. And now you have a picture of it in your mind. The picture in this, for us, is of the price that Christ paid so that we might have a relationship with him. You see, for the grain, the threshing or winnowing process was quite severe. The grain was trampled and tossed and torn to pieces so that the kernel, that life-giving center, might be exposed. By the same token, our Redeemer, the Lord Jesus, entered his Father's threshing floor when he went to the cross for us. There he was trampled, tossed, and torn to pieces, so that life might be given to those who come to him. When this was accomplished, and he cried, "It is finished," there began a time of rejoicing and blessing that will never cease. Just like Boaz, our Jesus, ate, drank, rejoiced, and slept for us in God's threshing floor. His trip to the Father's threshing floor makes it possible for you and I to get at his feet. Like Ruth, we should mark where he has been and let that be a special place in our hearts. May his death on Calvary never become old hat to the children of the King. So we have all of the research, the groundwork is laid, and now we're ready to look at the resolve. When Ruth heard what was required of her, she said, "I will do it. I will do it." This would require much courage and humility on the part of Ruth. It required her wanting to be with him so much that she made the effort to go there. It required her to humble herself to lie at his feet. It also required great courage for her to approach this wealthy and important man. The same sort of resolve is required for a person to come to Jesus, whether it be for salvation or for a closer walk with him. It requires us to make a move toward him. It requires us to humble ourselves at his feet. It requires us to have the courage to admit that we have a need in our lives. But for those who will make up their minds to get to him, regardless of the cost, the rewards are priceless. It also involves a request. Research, resolve, and a request. Both Ruth and Boaz are afraid. But he wakes up because he feels someone at his feet. And guess what? She pops the question. Her request nothing wrong with that. That was common practice in those days. But Ruth's actions teach us a valuable lesson about getting at the feet of Jesus. Just she came to Boaz, plain and simple. She humbled herself to him and asked for that what she needed. What a lesson. If you want to be closer to him, then all you need to do is get at his feet and ask. If you want to be saved, then all you need to do is to come to his feet and ask. The reason that we do not have the things we want spiritually is often a result of our not taking the time to ask for them. Now, let's move to the last couple of verses, 10 and 11, and look at the promises that she received at his feet. He received her. Imagine the fears that must have been going through her mind as she lay there on that hard ground. What if he rejects me? What if he misinterprets my actions? What if he publicly humiliates me? What if he drives me away and refuses to have anything further to do with me? She needed not worry. For when he speaks, he says, "Fear not." Boaz wanted to be close to her too, as much or more than she did. You need never fear Jesus turning you away. He loves you too much to do that. When you come to him humbly, willingly, honestly, and openly, you will get what you come after. If you need salvation, you can get it at his feet. If it's a closer walk that is your goal, you will find it at his feet. You need not fear rejection. But you should prepare for a big change in life. After he received her, he reassures her. He responds to Ruth's request by telling her that he will do everything necessary to see that they are together. He will take care of all matters involved. She'd been told that if she could just get to his feet, he would tell her what to do. She got there, and she was told to trust Boaz. He would see all the details. What a truth for us. If we can just ever get to his feet, we will find that he is willing to do everything to see to it that our relationship is everything that it should be. You see, all the Lord wants from us is our love. He wants us to be at his feet. When we are there, he will take care of all of the details of life. He rejoices over her. Boaz praises Ruth for her love for him and for her godly lifestyle. Her behavior and godly life have worked together to bring all this to pass for her. And you know, the smile of the Savior is the great reward for those who pay the price to get themselves at his feet. Regardless of the price, regardless of the effort, his smile, his blessings, and his closeness are worth it all. You see, nothing, absolutely nothing, gives him more pleasure than being able to take your life and mine and hold it out to the world and say, this is what I can do with a life laid at my feet. When Ruth made the effort to get at the feet of Boaz, everything in her life changed. Our heavenly Boaz, the Lord and Savior Jesus can and will do the same for you if you will get at his feet. If you've never been to his feet, I invite you to get to his feet for salvation now. If you've been there and wandered away, then I invite you to return to his feet and rediscover the blessings that can only be found there. If you're at his feet right now, then I invite you to come before him, thank him for allowing you to be there, and ask him to help you remain as close to him as you need.